The night was thick with the sound of insects and the distant cries of wild animals. In the village square, an old man, Elder Edem, sat by the crackling fire, his weathered hands gesturing as he spoke. Children huddled around him, their faces lit by the flickering flames. "The warriors of Ekpo," he began, his voice low and gravelly, "are not like other men. They do not just fight, they consume the essence of those they defeat. It is how they remain undefeated." The children shuddered, but their eyes remained fixed on him. A young boy, Etem, dared to ask, "Why do they do it, Elder?" Elder Edem's gaze darkened. "To show their victory, to absorb the strength of their enemies, and to keep the spirits of the fallen bound to them." The fire crackled louder, as if punctuating his words. In the shadows beyond, the warriors of Ekpo sharpened their weapons, preparing for the battle they knew was coming. Ekpo had always been a village of strength, but even the strongest drew envy and fear. The village of Ekpo lay nestled in a valley surrounded by dense forests in Nigeria, its people known for their fierce warriors and unbroken legacy of victory. For generations, they had defended their lands and traditions without faltering. Yet, trouble brewed at their borders. A vast stretch of fertile land, rich with streams and wildlife, sat between Ekpo and the neighboring village of Bokamu. Both villages claimed the land as their own. For years, tensions simmered, with each side accusing the other of trespassing. When Ekpo began planting crops on the disputed land, Bokamu's patience ran out. The people of Bokamu, long overshadowed by Ekpo's fearsome reputation, decided to act. Their chief, Obitan, a cunning strategist, summoned his warriors and elders. "This land is ours," Obitan declared, slamming his staff onto the ground. "If Ekpo wants to challenge us, we will fight." Meanwhile, in Ekpo, Chief Iwara prepared his warriors. His booming voice echoed through the sacred forest where they gathered. "Bokamu dares to challenge us? Let them come. We are the warriors of Ekpo. No one can take what is ours." Among the warriors stood Arikpo, a young fighter with sharp instincts and a restless spirit. Though loyal to his village, he harbored unease about the constant battles and the dark traditions that followed them. As dawn broke over the contested land, Bokamu's warriors launched their attack. Their war cries shattered the morning calm as they charged, spears gleaming in the sunlight. Ekpo's warriors met them head-on, their movements swift and calculated. The battle raged fiercely, blades clashing, arrows flying, and the air thick with the scent of blood. Arikpo fought valiantly, his sword finding its mark again and again, but his heart was heavy. Each strike reminded him of the price they paid for these endless disputes. By the end of the day, the warriors of Bokamu lay defeated. Ekpo stood victorious, their dominance once again unshaken. But their victory came at a cost. Blood stained the disputed land, and the air was thick with the cries of the wounded and dying. After the battle, Ekpo's warriors retreated to the forest in their camp for their victory ritual. Around a roaring bonfire, they prepared to consume the remains of their enemies. For them, this was not mere savagery, it was tradition, a way to absorb the strength of those they defeated and honor their own bravery. The ritual began with chants led by the elders, their deep voices reverberating through the forest. One by one, the warriors stepped forward, taking pieces of the fallen. Arikpo hesitated as his turn came, the weight of the act pressing on him like never before. With the eyes of his brothers upon him, he forced himself to partake, though his stomach churned with unease. Unknown to the warriors of Ekpo, one of Bokamu's men, Obong, had survived. Hidden among the trees, he had watched in horror as his comrades fell and Ekpo's warriors began their gruesome feast. Obong fled into the night, his heart pounding with rage and sorrow. He vowed to unite the surrounding villages against Ekpo. "They fight for land, but they take our lives. They must be stopped," he whispered to himself as he disappeared into the shadows. Back in Ekpo, the warriors were greeted as heroes. The villagers celebrated their victory, but Arikpo could not join in the revelry. The images of the battle and the ritual haunted him. Seeking clarity, Arikpo approached Chief Iwara in private. "Father," he began cautiously, "is the feast truly necessary? We've won. The land is ours. Must we continue?" Chief Iwara's face hardened. "The feast is what keeps us strong. It is our bond with the spirits of victory. Without it, we are nothing." Arikpo nodded, but doubt gnawed at him. He began to question if their strength came from their rituals, or from something deeper within them. Days later, a mysterious elder named Obasi arrived in Ekpo. He was a traveler from distant lands, his appearance strange yet commanding. The villagers gathered as he stood in the square, leaning on a staff carved with intricate symbols. "I have seen villages like yours before," Obasi said, his voice carrying the weight of years. "Strong warriors, unyielding traditions. But beware, the spirits of those you consume do not remain silent. They will rise, and they will take more than you are willing to give." The villagers scoffed at his words, dismissing him as a mad wanderer. But Arikpo listened. The elder's warning echoed his own fears, planting seeds of doubt that he could no longer ignore. That night, Arikpo sat by the river, staring at his reflection. The water rippled, distorting his face. For a brief moment, he saw Obong's haunted eyes staring back at him. Far from Ekpo, Obong gathered warriors from other villages, their faces grim as they pledged to stand against Ekpo. "They have taken our land and our people," Obong said. "We will show them that even the strongest can fall." In the shadows of the forest, both sides prepared for what was to come. The land dispute was no longer about borders, it was about survival. The forest around Ekpo seemed to breathe with unease. After the last battle, a heavy silence had settled over the village, but it was not peace, it was the calm before a storm. The villagers worked their fields and mended their homes, but whispers of unease rippled through the air. In the heart of the forest, Obong crouched by a fire with warriors from other villages. Their faces were grim, their weapons gleaming in the firelight. "Ekpo has taken too much from us," Obong said, his voice low and fierce. "If we do not act, they will devour us all." His words struck a chord. The warriors nodded, their eyes burning with hatred. They swore an oath to destroy Ekpo, no matter the cost. Back in Ekpo, Arikpo wrestled with his growing doubts. The words of the elder, Obasi, replayed in his mind. The spirits will rise. Each night, Arikpo found himself staring into the forest, as if expecting something to emerge from the darkness. Unbeknownst to him, a traitor walked among them. One of Ekpo's own, Udemy, had been secretly meeting with Obong's coalition. He carried with him knowledge of Ekpo's defenses, rituals, and weaknesses. One moonless night, Udemy slipped away into the forest. At the coalition's camp, he revealed Ekpo's greatest secret, the ritual feast. "Without it, they are nothing," Udemy whispered. "Destroy their ability to perform the ritual, and you destroy their strength." Ekpo village was unprepared when the attack came. In the dead of night, the coalition warriors descended upon the village, their movements swift and silent. Fires erupted as they torched homes and fields, sowing chaos. Arikpo awoke to screams and the clang of weapons. Grabbing his sword, he joined the fray, his heart pounding. The battle was unlike any he had fought before. The attackers were coordinated, their knowledge of Ekpo's defenses unnerving. In the chaos, Chief Iware bellowed commands, rallying the warriors. "We are Ekpo. We do not fall." His voice cut through the din, igniting a fierce resistance. Despite their strength, Ekpo's warriors were pushed to their limits. For the first time, the prospect of defeat loomed over them. As dawn broke, the battle raged on. Arikpo fought alongside his brothers, his sword slick with blood. But something felt wrong. The coalition knew too much. They anticipated every move, exploited every weakness. In the heat of battle, Arikpo saw Udemy fighting on the side of the enemy. Rage boiled within him. "Traitor!" he roared, charging toward him. The two clashed, their swords ringing out in deadly rhythm. "You don't understand, Arikpo," Udemy snarled. "These traditions will destroy us all. And yet you'd destroy us first." Arikpo retorted, his blade driving into Udemy's side. The traitor fell, his eyes wide with shock. Arikpo stood over him, shaken but resolute. Desperation drove Chief Iwara. With the coalition's forces pushed back, Chief Iwara commanded the warriors to perform the ritual feast immediately, even amid the chaos. "If they sought to destroy our strength," Iwara said, his voice thunderous, "then we will show them it cannot be taken." In the sacred forest, the remaining warriors gathered. The air was heavy with dread as the elders began chanting. The ritual demanded a terrible price, one that even the strongest hesitated to pay. Arikpo watched as the warriors consumed not just the flesh of their enemies but something far darker. The ground seemed to tremble, the forest whispering warnings that no one heeded. As the ritual completed, an unnatural power surged through the warriors. Their movements became faster, their strikes more brutal. They drove the coalition back with terrifying force, but the forest itself seemed to revolt. The trees groaned, shadows danced unnaturally, and the air turned cold. The victory was hollow. Though the coalition was defeated, Ekpo's warriors returned to the village with unease. The forest was no longer a place of refuge. It was alive with malevolence. That night, Arikpo was plagued by dreams of the fallen. Faces of the enemies he had slain stared back at him, their mouths moving soundlessly. When he awoke, he found himself outside, his feet covered in mud, as if he had been walking in his sleep. Across the village, other warriors reported similar experiences. The elder, Obasi, appeared in the square once more, his voice trembling with urgency. "You have angered the spirits," he said. "The land you fight for is cursed. It will consume you." The coalition of villages was utterly destroyed. Obong, the leader of the resistance, was among the fallen, and his defeat sent a chilling message to all who had dared to challenge Ekpo. Back in Ekpo, the villagers celebrated their warriors' return with songs and dances, but fear lingered in the surrounding communities. The stories of Ekpo's dark rituals spread far and wide. No village dared to challenge them again. Years turned into decades, and the practice of the ritual feast continued. The warriors of Ekpo remained undefeated, their strength and ferocity unmatched. The disputed land became part of Ekpo's territory, but no one dared to cultivate or live there. It was cursed, a graveyard for those who had fallen to Ekpo's might. To this day, the warriors of Ekpo are a legend in the region. Other communities avoid even the thought of conflict with them, their tales whispered in hushed tones. Parents warn their children never to stray too close to Ekpo, for it is said that the warriors still feed on their enemies, drawing strength from every life they take. For now, Ekpo remains undefeated. But Arikpo, now older, wonders. How long can they sustain their legacy of blood before the land itself rises against them?